Okay, so I got a request from a student um, to do a follow-up video on matrix multiplication, and so I thought it might be a good idea to do that. It is a topic that is quite important when it comes to matrices. It's also a difficult skill to nail down because it's not a real straightforward um, cell by cell multiplication. You have to do that weird row by column kind of process. And so I don't know that the examples I used were diverse enough to really get a feel for it, so I'm going to use a couple different size matrices to show you a little bit, just to give you a little bit better idea of how that is done. Just as a follow-up again, maybe a bit of review as we move forward. So that being said, I've set it up here where I have a 2 by 3 matrix. That's 2 rows, 3 columns. This one is a 3 by 2 matrix, 3 rows, 2 columns. Remember, in order to multiply any matrices, the column of the first must match the number of rows of the second. Those have to be the same. And then your final answer is going to be the row from the first by the column from the second. So our final answer is going to end up being a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay. So as we move through this, keep that in mind. So I'm going to end up with a 2 by 2 matrix. And the entry, so because it's 2 by 2, it's going to have 2 rows and 2 columns. Now the first row, first column comes from multiplying the first row by the first column. And remember how we did that? We took the first entry times the first entry. 5 times 1 is 5. Then we did second times the second, right? Row times column. So we got 2 and negative 2. That makes a minus 4. And then we do the third times the third. So negative 1 times 6 would be a minus 6. And all those things get added together. Then to get the first row, second column entry in the answer, we take the first row times the second column. So we get 5 times 4, that's 20. 2 times negative 3, that's negative 6. Negative 1 times 0 is 0. Okay. Now we move down to this is the second row, first column, so we take the second row, first column. 0 times 1 is 0. 3 times negative 2, again we're going across the row down the column. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, or minus 6. 2 times 6 is 12. And then to get the second row, second column entry, we need to take the second row and the second column. Alright, so we're going to do 0 times 4 is 0. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. 2 times 0 is 0. And then we're going to just simplify all that, add them together. Okay, so we're going to get, let's see, that's negative 10 and 5 is negative 5. 20 minus 6 is 14. Negative 6 and 12 is 6. And that's a negative 9. And so there's our 2 by 2 matrix. Negative 5, 14, 6, and negative 9. Well, look at that. It's matrix magic. That just popped in. Just appeared. Anyway, let's try another one. This one is a 2 by 2 matrix. And it's followed up by a 2 by 4 matrix. Remember I said the columns from the first must match the rows from the second, which they do. And the final answer will have the rows from the first, the columns from the second. So we're going to have a final answer that's a 2 by 4 matrix. Okay, it'll be the same size as this one here. Okay, so now as we run this through, we're again going to be multiplying rows times columns. And because it's a 2 by 4, I'm just going to have 2 rows and 4 columns in the final answer. So my first row, first column comes from first row, first column multiplication. So here we go. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Negative 2 times 4, again, row and column. That's a negative 8. Okay. Then we move over. So first row, second column comes from first row, second column. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. All right, now we go first row, third column. That's first row times third column. So 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Okay. And then to finish off the first row, fourth column comes from the first row, fourth column. So we go 3 times 0 is 0. Negative 2 times 2 is minus 4. Repeat for the second column. So we do second column, first row, second column, second row, second column, third row, second column, fourth row. That's how we get our 4 entries. Okay, so I'll run those through quickly. That's negative 3 plus 16, negative 2 plus 20, 1 minus 4, and 0 and 8. Okay. Alright, so that should give us our second row. And then we just add all those numbers together. So we get a negative 17. That's what, negative 16, 5, and negative 4 along the first row. Then we get a 13, an 8, negative 3, and an 8 along the bottom row. And there is our 2 by 4 matrix. It matches the size that I predicted at the beginning. All right, hopefully that helps with a couple of extra examples, a little bit diversity in the sizes of the matrices, and just to give you a little bit more, a couple more examples to look at and see the pattern. So